Good morning. Um, we're talking about the mass shootings, two of which I'm going to talk about, which basically caused the events of mass shootings happening in America. The first one being August 1st of 1966, University of Texas. Former Marine Charles Whitman went onto the observation tower in the University of Texas, onto 13 people fired onto 13 people and wounded 30 more. Reasons behind it was that Whitman was a former Marine and he had troubles. He had trouble with his head or something. Before he went to the University of Texas, he had killed two others, which were his wife and his unborn child and his mother. With that being said, he was suffering from headaches going to the nurse, and throughout the autopsy, they figured out that he had a tumor in his brain. So that was the cause of his murder spree on the University of Texas. Uh, as they're going, Marines do have a tendency to have the PTSD, but we should fix that honestly because this is really sad. And that's the University of Texas. Also, he just went up and shot people. That's it. Now, as high school goes, this is the most infamous high school shooting in all of America, the one that caused high school shootings up until now. Yesterday, 4/20, 2018, 19 years ago, on April 20, 1999, Columbine High School shooting happened. Two teens by the name of Dylan Klebold and Eric Harris had went in and killed 13 people and wounded 20 more. Just about a little bit the same with University of Texas. And right after that, they turned the guns on themselves and shot themselves. Reason behind this high school shooting would be that they targeted most of the jocks and the kids that are popular because they were outcast in a sense. Um, there's not really much to it. It's just they both had upbringings to it. They also had a club called the Mafia Trenchcoat, I believe, and basically in that club we would just wear trench coats, looking cool. Um, there's they just had hatred towards the school, like any other kid that's bullied or just having a rough day. They just have hatred towards the school. So they decided to, hey, let's launch a murder spree on our high school. There really wasn't to it. I don't believe anything. This could have been prevented, but we never saw the signs. And after all these high school shootings, we've been letting them happen. We should really, as a society, take charge and look and to see. We should reach out and help instead of just watching from the shadows. But this is Columbine.
At Red Lake High School in Minnesota was a school shooting on March 2005. Before the 16-year-old Jeffrey targeted school, he shot his grandfather and his grandfather's girlfriend his gun, with the grandfather's gun. Jeffrey's grandfather was a police officer. Jeffrey then took the police car and took the weapons and the vest of his grandfather and drove to the Red Lake Senior High School. Jeffrey was getting treatment to deal with his behavior issues, and he was also suffering depression. He was dealing with his grandmother, his grandfather, and his aunt because his mother suffered from a severe brain damage in a car accident, and his father later on committed suicide. As Jeffrey was shooting at the school, he had a smile on his face, and one of the boys asked him, do he believe in God? Reports said that he had depression and behavior issues, which might have led him to this action. Death toll was 10 and 7 injured. After going back and forth with police officers, Jeffrey was hit in the abdomen and right arm. Then he went to a classroom and committed suicide. Researchers says that the reason this also may led him to this because of being teased or bullied at school. On March 2005, there was a school shooting at Ray Lake High School in Minnesota. Before the 16-year-old Jeffrey targeted school, he shot his grandfather and his grandfather's girlfriend. Jeffrey's grandfather was a police officer. Jeffrey then took the police car and took the weapons and vests of his grandfather and drove to Red Lake Senior High School. Jeffrey was getting treatment to deal with his behavior issues, and he was also suffering depression. Jeffrey's mother suffered severe brain damage in a car accident and was sent to nursing home. And his father later committed suicide later on in life, down the line. As Jeffrey was shooting at the school, he had a smile on his face, and one of the victims asked him, do he believe in God? Report says that he had depression and behavior issues, which might have led him to this action. Death toll was 10 and 7 injured. After going back and forth with the police as they arrived, Jeffrey was hit in the abdomen and right arm. Then he went to a classroom and committed suicide. Researchers says that the reason this may led him to this because of being teased or bullied at school.
The other school that I want to talk about is Sandy Hooks. Sandy Hooks was an elementary school. This happened on December 14th, 2012. The total death was 28, and the total death at the elementary school was 27. Before the shooting occurred, this guy, the shooter, Adam Lanza, shot his mother and went to the school and processed this whole massacre. Non-fatal injuries at the elementary school was 2. Adam Lanza, he lived with his mother Nancy Lanza about 5 miles away from the elementary school. Adam's father, Peter Lanza, was never in his life. After divorcing Nancy, he was never there for him. He never showed up. When Adam was younger, he didn't like to be around anyone. He liked anyone due to the sensor process disorder. He had a problem processing in his mind with other people. Still today, authorities don't know why he shot his mother and Sandy Hooks, because after the shooting, he committed suicide. Adam Lanza's disorder. He had it quite a bit, and he was never treated for it. He never took any medicine or never went to a doctor to get prescribed or none of that. He was more of a shelter kid. His mom always kept him inside the house and never got dealt with. He had alignment and anxiety and obsession disorder. Adam was never treated, like I said. And he had a problem mentally, and he was never treated for it, and this is one of the big factors why this school shooting was probably occurred. Hello, my name is Kyle Pierce, and I'll be talking about mass shootings from Stoneman Douglas to Sandy Hooks. The first topic I want to talk about is Stoneman Douglas. What happened at Stoneman Douglas? On February 14, 2018, this shooting was occurred. There was about 17 fatal deaths and another 17 non-fatal injuries. The kid that caused this shooting was named Nicholas Cruz. Nicholas Cruz had a rough life. He was adopted by Linda Cruz and Roger Cruz. Cruz also has a brother from his biological mother that was also adopted with him later on in life. Cruz's biological mother wasn't really stable. She was a drug addict. She liked to steal. She liked to do all that. So Linda and Roger Cruz tried to help Nicholas and his brother out by adopting them and paying a fee of $50,000 for Nicholas and another additional fee for Zachary, another $15,000. Um, Having a father figure like Roger, Nicholas watched Roger have a heart attack and die in front of his eyes at the age of 5, which changed his life forever. Nicholas had a couple disorders. He had a problem with depression. He had hyperactive disorder. He had emotional behavior disability and autism. Um, these were recorded by the State Department of Child and Family Show. Stoneman Douglas, the whole event that happened. Nicholas enrolled to Stoneman Douglas High School on January 13th, 2016, after being kicked out of multiple schools. He had a problem with other kids. He would always get in altercations, always in fights, and find a way to get in trouble. When arriving at Stoneman, he started to get into more trouble. Actually, his mother passed away, and whenever he was enrolled, and that's when everything started to get serious because he had no one to rely on or no one to get help or feedback. So on February 8, 2017, he assaulted another student at Douglas, which got him kicked out. 3 days after the removal from Stoneman Douglas, he bought an AR-15 and used it in the school shooting. On Valentine's Day, he called an Uber and he got dropped off at Stoneman Douglas, which at the time he was waiting for kids to get out to cause this massacre.